As I now recognize Mr. Blackman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Ranking Member, members of the committee. My name is Josh Blackman. I am a constitutional law professor at the South Texas College of Law in Houston, Texas. I am honored to have the opportunity to testify today about executive overreach in the Constitution, an area I've studied very closely. I am the author of Unraveled, Obamacare Executive Power and Religious Liberty from Cambridge University Press. I have published several articles on the constitutionality of DAPA. As well, I've filed several Supreme Court briefs with Cato Institute on immigration and Obamacare. In my brief time, I wish to make 3 points concerning the President and how he has seized upon congressional gridlock to aggrandize the executive's power. Rather than focusing on whether these actions are constitutional, which Ms. Papez and Ms. Slattery have ably covered, I want to highlight the relationship between Congress and the President that gave rise to these actions. First, after Congress rejected the President's immigration agenda, he took unilateral executive action to grant lawful presence to millions of aliens and accomplish the very sort of reforms that Congress rejected. Second, even where bipartisan consensus emerged to minimize the harmful effects of the Affordable Care Act, the President has modified the law's mandates. Finally, I will sound an alarm. Executive lawmaking poses an encroaching threat to the separation of powers and the rule of law, and that Congress, and not just the court across the street, must take steps to halt. So let's start with Obamacare. In what has become a troubling pattern of abuse, the executive branch has modified the law's mandates, the individual mandate and the employer mandate. What makes these alterations particularly harmful is that bipartisan support existed to amend the ACA to ameliorate these mandates. However, the President has rejected the legislative process. Through a series of memoranda, regulations, and even blog posts, executive officials have remade the law in their own image. The ACA's employer mandate was supposed to go into effect on January 1st, 2014. On July 2nd, 2013, in a blog post titled, figuratively, "Continuing to Implement the ACA in a Careful and Thoughtful Manner," the Obama administration nonchalantly suspended the employer mandate until 2015. I've called this process regulation by blog post. What makes this unilateral delay all the more remarkable is that 2 weeks after the blog post, this House passed the, quote, Authority for Mandate Delay Act. The 2-page bipartisan bill would have delayed the implementation of the mandate until 2015. This is precisely what the blog post accomplished, except as a backing of the legislative branch. In response to this bill, which would have given him the authority to take action, what did the President do? He issued a veto threat. A similar pattern played out with respect to the ACA's individual mandate. In 2013, as millions of Americans received cancellation notices, a bipartisan consensus emerged that the mandate had to be delayed to help people who liked their plans keep them. In October, Senator Landrieu introduced a bill that would have grandfathered all active plans that were valid in 2013. On November 15th, this House passed a similar bill on a bipartisan basis, 261 to 157. Once again, the President issued a veto threat to the House bill. He said that it would, quote, sabotage the health care law. This body cannot sabotage the law. All this body can do is change the law. On November 15th, 1 hour before the House voted on this bill, the President announced what became known as the administrative fix. The fix allowed people to keep their plans. Ironically, the exact bill that he threatened to veto accomplished the same thing as executive action. The President enacted through executive action what this Congress was willing and able to do in a rare instance of bipartisan agreement. Let's move on to immigration. Much like with the ACA, for immigration, the President has transformed congressional defeat into executive action. In June 2014, the House announced that they would not bring for a vote the Gang of Ed bill, the Comprehensive Immigration Reform Bill. Okay? Within hours of learning that the Senate bill was dead, the President announced that he would act alone. That he said, quote, "I take executive action only when we have a serious problem, a serious issue, and Congress chooses to do nothing. I will fix as much of our immigration system as I can on my own without Congress." On November 20th, after the elections, he revealed DAPA. Like the mythical phoenix, DAPA arose from the ashes of a congressional defeat. And DAPA again accomplished several of the key objectives of the bill that Congress voted down. The pattern has become all too clear. First, Congress passes a statute. Second, the statute is inconsistent with the President's evolving policy preferences. And third, the administration modifies or suspends enforcement of the law to achieve a result inconsistent with what Congress designed. During the hearing today, I hope to discuss steps Congress and the President can take to remedy these serious threats to separation of powers. Thank you. I welcome your questions, and beware the Ides of March.